Let me tell you the doomed tale of the Byzantines. It all started with me waking up on the beach. It was time for another Smart Guy event. 7 days, no respawns, and 200 players split into 4 teams, each given a quadrant of the map. I was placed in the northwestern team. We all spawned in on one central location, and I quickly started tribing people up. Now for this event, Mr. Smart Guy wanted a lot more role playing, meaning more effort on building an actual civilization and not just fighting people for the sake of fighting people. For this event, we would assume the role of the Byzantines, the eastern successors of the Roman Empire. In preparation for this, my good buddy Jimmy had made a set of skins for us to wear. I donned an outfit inspired by a mosaic of Justinian, one of the greatest Byzantine emperors. You know my favorite thing about the guy? Look at that. Your boy's got a fucking double chin. And this is some mosaic that's supposed to make him look good, so for all we know, Justinian might have been rocking the triple chin. And the Goopers, who were my small, highly trusted elite bodyguard, wore an outfit inspired by the Varangian Guard, who served a very similar purpose. I only had 6 of them: Chad, Lou, Shmurda, Palander, Jimmy, and Lucy. Each of these men was highly competent, but more important than that, highly trusted, and this will come in handy later. But for now, I had just finished adding everybody to the tribe. It was time to make our way to the base spot. We constructed a small flotilla of rafts and set off. Let's go, boys! We had arrived to the base spot. This particular island was chosen due to its resemblance to Constantinople, the famed capital of the Byzantines. Now, this wasn't a particularly good base spot. In our zone, there was at least a couple dozen more that were significantly better, but this was a more roleplay focused event, so this would be our home. With people unable to leave their zones for the first day, we had no worries of being attacked. We took our time and began setting up our base.
I'm sucking.
Right.
I'm sucking blood.
You know what, Chad? Next time just say you're drawing. Like you're drawing blood from a blood kit, not sucking blood. Outside of a few sus goopers, things were going pretty well. We'd gotten on our island and found a decent bit of resources. Our plan was as follows. Near the end of our peninsula was a hill formed up by a couple cliffs forming a sort of spiral formation. This was a decently defensible location. At the top of this hill, we would build our main base, modeled after the Hagia Sophia. We'd build a few layers of gates on the way up to it, and after that we would begin an absurd mega project to build an entirely walled-in section of the island. Now, this section of wall was far too large to defend, and would serve as a massive drain of resources for nearly no appreciable effect. But one of the things Constantinople is known for was its absurd array of walls. And since this is meant to be a more roleplay focused event, and we're the Byzantines, we gotta have a big ass wall, no matter how useless they actually are. After a while, we exhausted all the wood resources we had on this island. There was barely any trees on here. And so I built a small harbor that allowed us to cross the nearby channel and gather wood at the very tree-rich swamp. With this, we could now continue our mega project of the wall. I personally focused mainly on the seawall closest to base, while Palander and Jimmy put in an insane amount of effort on the main wall. And did I mention that for the first day, Mr. Smart Guy had inadvertently messed up a setting, meaning no dinos could be tamed, so all of this fucking farming had to be done by hand? As part of the construction of the base, I made sure to lay down a couple Byzantine flags, just to help tie everything together. As construction on the main wall continued, a couple people had gone out and gotten a good stock of metal, meaning everybody could now afford decent arms and armor. It is worth mentioning, however, that this server was limited to only smithy tier weapons, meaning the best guns are long necks and double barrel shotguns, and the only real method of raiding is through grenades. Although this isn't nearly as bad as it sounds, as the highest tier of structures is stone. So all in all, the stage was set for some relatively primitive PvP, but that would be in the future. Soon after this, day 1 was drawing to a close. As my final act of the first day, I climbed the highest peak we had on our whole island, right next to the Hagia Sophia, and planted a standard depicting Jesus, just as the Byzantines would have done. Day 1 had passed without any hiccups, or even major disagreements on the tribe, but things were not exactly as they seemed on the surface. As I awoke for day 2, I found that the standard of Jesus had turned blank overnight, a horrific omen that foretold our doom, if only we'd been wise enough to see it. Because today, I was supposed to die. Before the event had even begun, a man who we will refer to only as Hypatius had made a plot on my life. Motivated by, no joke, a desire to be a main character, he had first approached me with some awful idea about him helping me fake a hostage situation to make me look better to the team. After I politely refused this, he then began pushing for some obtuse team structure where we'd be led by 5 different but equal elders of a tribe. Needless to say, in this plan, he would of course be one of the elders. This whole idea was nothing but a naked power grab from Hypatius. It was well understood that these divided leadership structures simply don't work in these events. With me shooting this idea down, he resolved that now, the only way for him to be a main character was to simply kill me and usurp control of the tribe. He began spreading this rumor that I would ruin the event by failing to do any roleplay whatsoever. With this, plus a few other lies, he was able to recruit 13 people into his coup, and they decided that at day 2, they would kill me and take over leadership for the tribe. Now what they didn't consider is that before the event had even started, I knew all of this. You see, when you recruit too many people to a conspiracy, one of them is going to end up talking. And so I had an informant deep in their ranks telling me everything. I was able to see that although they planned to kill me on day 2, they were struggling to find a way to actually carry it out. And so this could be used to my advantage. With them having no idea I knew all of their plans, I suggested that halfway through day 2, our team should all get together and take a group photo. An idea courtesy of Chad, thanks for that. And soon after they accepted this idea, my informant revealed to me that they were making plans to kill me at this group photo. They had swallowed the bait, hook, line, and sinker. And looking back on historical examples, one of the first things Justinian had to deal with upon coming to power was a quasi-revolt called the Nika Riots. Seeing him as illegitimate, a small group of elites had attempted to overthrow him. So looking back on this example, I knew what had to be done. Forgive and offer clemency to those that I could, and kill those that I couldn't. You see, although there's supposed to be 50 people on each team, the overall turnout, for our team at least, was probably a lot closer to 30 or 35. So if I killed all 13 people involved in this plot, we'd be fucked. Those who were most dedicated to the plot on my life had joined their leader Hypatius in a different tribe altogether. However, some of the people in this plot were still within our tribe, so I had to offer no indication whatsoever that I knew what was happening. The one group I could trust, however, was my own personal guard, the Goopers. I filled them in on our plan. To make sure none of the traitors would get away alive, they assisted me in the building of the Hippodrome, the real-life structure where the Nika riots had been put down. With taming now enabled on this day, we were able to build a lot quicker, especially since Lucy had tamed me a pretty badass Procoptodon that I named Burtcop. Only in Ark can you have Justinian hopping around on a giant 15-foot tall kangaroo. Alexander the Great had his horse, Bucephalus, and Albert the Rotund had Burtcop. With this, we were able to quickly build the Hippodrome, which I had purpose-built to ensure no traitors would survive. And then once we were ready, we gathered our whole team at the Hippodrome and invited the other tribe to come take a photo with us. I mean, we're all still on the same team, right? We only have each other's best interests in mind, right? Thinking me some kind of idiot who had unknowingly signed his own death warrant by inviting them here, and blinded by their own hubris and bloodlust for me, they agreed to meet here and take the group photo together. And from my informant, I knew exactly when they planned to make their play on my life. But when you know there's a secret plot on your life, and you know exactly who's involved, when they plan to kill you, and how many of them there is, it becomes almost trivially easy to plan against them. So here was the plan. I'm illustrated in purple. The Goopers, who know what we're about to do here, are in dark green. The rest of the tribe is in a lighter green. And these guys have fucking no idea what's gonna happen. And those who I had marked down to die in this plot were marked in red. Although of course they concealed themselves as our friends. So their plan was to wait until right after I'd snapped the photo, and then they would all rush me and kill me in front of everyone, from where they would then assume leadership of the tribe. But of course, I wasn't going to let this happen. I had designed the Hippodrome with 2 entrances to make the enemies feel less boxed in. I positioned one Gooper on each set of doors, Lucy on the back doors, and Chad on the main gateway. On my signal, they would close both sets of doors and set them to admin only. Because some of the people in the crowd were part of the plot, although less invested, In the heat of the moment, they might open the doors and let their co-conspirators escape. By setting the doors to admin only just before we began killing them, we wouldn't arouse any suspicion, but we'd also prevent them from escaping. Next, I had Lou and Shmurda acting as my personal bodyguards. I knew exactly when these guys would strike against me, but just in case they panicked and made an attempt on my life earlier than expected, these two would protect me. And as the final coup de grace, I'd actually brought 2 crocs into the arena. Now, my stated reason for this was that this was an iconic tame for us because we had had it for a long time, and as such, they were the only tame allowed inside the arena. Now, conveniently enough, they both just so happened to be ridden by Goopers, specifically Jimmy and Palander. And so this way, even if the rest of the tribe was too confused to help in the slaughter of the traitors, it wouldn't really matter because we had giant 40-foot long fucking crocodiles in the arena. At around the halfway point through day 2, the traitors arrived. Originally, they wanted to keep their pterodons in the arena, but when I asked them to take them out of the arena for the photo, they agreed. Not an ounce of self-preservation. They were so certain in their success that to them, I was already as good as dead. Since for this group photo we were all in the same VC together, I was able to hear them say this.
Yeah, we're not in the same tribe, so we're not gonna be able to get out.
Yeah, trust me, I'm counting on it. With everybody in position, I pulled out my war horn and signaled the ambush. Kill everyone that's not in the tribe. They're here to assassinate me. Right now. Kill them all. Kill them all. Kill them all. Kill them all. As the traitors were being cut down, I heard Shmurda giving them some words of encouragement.
You guys wanna fuck around?
Yeah.
Don't run. Take it. Take it like a bitch.
Yeah.
They're in here, bro. They're inside. They're in here.
Yeah, there's some people hiding in here, bro.
Near the end of the ambush, Chad had found the leader of these traitors, Hypatius, cowering in a corner like some kind of rat. With these two being the last of their little rebellion, they didn't exactly last long. I'm coming, Chad!
No. I got him!
The rebels were all cut down to a man. None of them had survived. After this show of force, those within our tribe who had considered cooperating with them had changed their mind, and from henceforth, they were trusted members of the Empire. I wouldn't have to completely cripple the team by killing all 13. Although that's not to say that losing 7 potential members wasn't a huge blow to the team, but had I not acted decisively against this conspiracy, I would have surely been killed. This was all very Byzantine, wasn't it? Death itself had come for me this day, but I'd outwitted it, at least for now. In the wake of this, the tribe rallied around me. I now had greater support than ever before. I gave a speech after the attack in the Hippodrome and had donned a new outfit. My rich purple cloak was exchanged for a chest piece of the Varangian Guard. In times like these, my empire would require a strong and active leader, and my outfit should reflect that. Shortly after this plot against me was put down, day 2 came to an end. As day 3 began, having recently put down this rebellion, our whole team was jubilant and ready for the future. Though, had we Byzantines known what fate had in store for us, we wouldn't have been nearly as eager. But not knowing this, we were excited. You see, Mistress Marka had announced that whoever had the best looking base at the end of day 4 would receive a big prize. Interested in receiving said prize, we set out plans to beautify the city of Constantinople. My plan was to have everybody on the team leave their own unique stamp on our city by building their own structures. The idea was to make it look less like an arc base and more like the actual city of Constantinople. Now, this creative freedom certainly had some draws to it because some people built some pretty cool bases, but it also certainly ended up having its downsides too. For example, I built like this nice row of Mediterranean style housing, you know, the kind of shit you'd see in Italy or Greece, complete with a road running down the middle, and just over the hill, barely out of view of my upper class housing, someone had taken it upon themselves to build a set of slums. You know, we had missing parts of the wall in some of these bases. Every house was facing like a different direction. But what we did have in the center of the slums was a very well-stocked bar. I guarantee you they've got plenty of Budweiser. Now, if you were interested in a bar that you were less likely to get jumped in, we did actually have another one down by the Hippodrome. It's pretty cool that we had like the shit part of town and then the nice part of town with a literal physical divider between the two. As for my own personal contributions to the city, there was the row of houses that I mentioned earlier, as well as a wooden fort I built up on a nice little hill overlooking the city, plus a tower I built near the wall that apparently was really bad because I kept getting shit for it throughout the rest of the event. And finally, I built a road connecting the major buildings in the city. Again, this would be completely useless. There's no movement speed advantage or anything. But if you're a city, you gotta have fucking roads, right? But as you can see, none of these building structures actually protect the base in any way. Basically, all of this stuff was way past the area that we could actually defend and would contribute literally nothing to the defense of the base. But again, it's a more roleplay focused event, and we want to see what that prize is for making the nicest base. We also received 6 refugees from the northeastern team, going by the name Exiled Merchants. These guys made a pretty fucking cool entrance when they showed up with these 6 RGs all lined up. At any rate, while staying in separate tribes, we formed an alliance. They set up shop in a swamp nearby. So that's almost all we ended up doing over day 3 and 4. Very, very little effort was put into upgrading our gear or getting better tames. But it was nice to kind of just loaf around for 2 days and not really worry about any fights and just focus on making kind of cool bases, which, to tell the truth, most of the Goopers, me included, are not particularly good at. But by the time day 4 was wrapping up, we were basically all ready for this peace to end and to finally get into some action. But had we known what was in store for us in the coming days, we would have done anything we could have to make this peace last just a little bit longer. At the start of day 5, we received our prize for having won the building contest over day 3 and 4. This turned out to be 3 50 armor Rex saddles. Basically, this meant we could have 3 of our Rexes take 30% less damage. A frankly somewhat disappointing prize for the amount of effort we'd put into our base. This was like the equivalent of having 1 extra Rex on our team, when we could have easily used that time to just go out and tame more than 1. We didn't exactly have time to sulk about this forever, because things had not truly been as peaceful as they'd seemed on day 3 and 4. You see, discontented with his failure, Hypatius was still plotting against me even from his grave. Talk about fucking roleplay, right? You see, before the event had even started, he had made an alliance with the leader of the northeastern team known as Alucard. Basically, he had sworn to pay tribute to Alucard in exchange for his assistance. This tribute came in the form of cannonballs, and he had actually been paying these during both day 1 and 2. In exchange for this, after assassinating me, had any members of my empire remained loyal to me after my death, Alucard's team would have been brought in as outside muscle to kill anyone who refused to swear loyalty to Hypatius. Not too dissimilar from what had happened in the 4th Crusade, where a puppet emperor had been placed on the throne of Constantinople in exchange for tribute to foreign powers. Now luckily for me and my empire, this had been nipped in the bud. Despite being dead, however, Hypatius was still communicating with Alucard and plotting against me. This would be a big problem, if not for one fact. In the aftermath of the slaughter at the Hippodrome, the traitors had been furiously attempting to find out who had given them away. And in this search, not only did they come to the wrong conclusion and end up blaming the wrong guy, but my inside guy had conducted himself so well that Hypatius crowned him the last hope of the rebellion. He was the only one of their cause who they truly still believed in, which is pretty fucking funny. Outside of just being funny, I could also use this. You see, Hypatius vouched for my inside guy to Alucard, so now one of the guys that Alucard trusted most in this entire event was actually working on my behalf. And with this very powerful card that we could play, I once again called a council of the Goopers and we discussed what should be done. We had to find a way to deal with the threat of Alucard. After going back and forth for a while, we decided that on day 5, we would set an ambush for his entire team. The plan was as follows. On day 4, I would tell my team that tomorrow we were going to attack the Japanese team based in the southeast. This was a lie, but only me and the Goopers knew this. Everybody else needed to truly believe we were going to attack the Japanese. As part of this, we encouraged the entire team to be loud about this, make sure the entire server knew what we were going to do on day 5. It was very important that Alucard heard about this and believed it. From there, I instructed instructed my inside guy who Alucard trusted to tell him that he had been selected as one of the few people to stay behind at base during this raid. He would then tell Alucard that while we were supposedly away at this raid, he would open up one of the northern gates of the base. This would then allow Alucard's team to stream inside of our city walls and easily take control of it, killing anything we had inside. And as we returned home to our city, he'd have defensive advantage and be able to easily slaughter all of us. Of course, in reality, we would never leave the base. We would actually stay hidden, and the location of the gate that would supposedly be open was chosen very specifically. The northern gate could only be accessed by water, so as Alucard's team was boating over, they'd be very vulnerable. We'd scale the walls of our base, jump into the water, and be able to easily kill them all. And so, in his effort to sneak attack us, Alucard would be completely destroyed. And all of this only being made possible because Hypatius vouched for our inside guy. By carrying out this ambush, we'd get rid of somebody who was plotting against us in the shadows. We'd be able to hold back our doom, at least for a while longer. And so on day 5, when everybody was just about ready to go and attack the Japanese, I dropped the truth on them.
We're not attacking the Japanese. Let me tell you what's actually happening.
And they were just excited as I was to give Alucard a taste of his own medicine. So we made preparations for the ambush. We put a ramp up on the back wall so we could easily jump over, and I had everybody gather down on the docks on rafts so that our inside guy could take a screenshot to further sell the story to Alucard. After that, we all went back to the base and laid low, just in case Alucard sent any scouts over. And there's something so painstaking about sitting there, lying in ambush. Every moment you can't help but think, what if he knows? Or what if he's not going to fall into the trap? In my case, my legitimacy was still relatively rocky. Failure in this ambush would mean day 5 was completely wasted. This might revive discontent in my rule, and for all I knew, it could lead to another coup. This ambush had to work. After about 20 minutes of us waiting here, Alucard was still yet to show. Perhaps he had sniffed us out. So a couple Goopers were sent on pterodons to the Japanese base to go skirmish with them. See, they were expecting to see our fleet over the horizon at any moment. If I sent a couple guys as scouts, word would get out across the server and eventually reach Alucard. They spent about 10 minutes skirmishing there, but all the same, our northern shores remained completely empty. This was fucking bad. Perhaps we had been played as the fools. To sell the lie, I only had one last card to play. I mounted on a pterodon and joined the few Goopers we had outside the Japanese base. I began skirmishing with them personally. If they saw the Emperor himself was outside their walls, they'd be much more likely to believe they were about to be raided. Hanging around just long enough for the Japanese to believe they were about to be under attack at any moment, we then withdrew. I had received word from a couple scouts in the north that a fleet of rafts had been seen moving to our position. It seems that Alucard had taken the bait. We took our positions in the ambush and waited. Once a few of them got within range, we jumped over the wall with our Crocs.
Just fucking hop on the amphibious shit. Follow through with the plan.
Trying to him off the raft. Him off the raft.
I'm on the raft.
Just swing at him.
Everything on the raft is dead.
We killed a few guys closest to base, but Alucard's push on our base had been so disorganized and disjointed that the majority of their forces were still far north from us. I had failed to plan for their fucking incompetence. Fucking guy was late for his own funeral. The guys in the north had enough time to make for the shore and dismount off their rafts. Although disorganized and still caught by surprise, landed on the beach, they would put up a much stronger fight. We had to keep pushing on them and not allow them any time to regroup.
I got an enemy Croc on me. Who wants to come and help? Second Croc on me.
I'm sniping the...
I'm hitting this Carno. Bro, I'm mogging the Carno. Tuso, come to shore and ping, bro. There's people walking along the shore.
Where?
The Carno we were chasing was killed, and the rider barely escaped with his life. Before long, we came across the center of enemy resistance. This is where they wanted to make a stand. Gathered around a rock golem, an incredibly powerful creature, the enemies would have easily beaten us. But due to having multiple krakens in the water, we had naval supremacy. So using the multiple crocs we had, we would dip in and out of the water, and I would personally coordinate us to attack the weakest enemies.
On the attack thing, Rex dead! Get this guy right here, bro. Get this guy. I've bit him so many fucking times. Get this guy. Guy dead.
Hey,
this guy's weak, bro.
Bedlock is hiding some.
Or fucking rhinos. These kids are ass. Get this rhino. This rhino's trying to run away. Kill the guy. I need to take a breather, bro. They're just hitting me with every bullet they got.
What?
700?
At this point, the exiled merchants joined us in the field of battle, their more refreshed and unwounded tames being a great aid to us.
They're making a run, they're making a run for it. Let's go. Alright, come on with me, boys.
The enemies, suffering heavy casualties, routed. We gave chase, killing off any stragglers. We would have killed all of them had their golem not fought a very effective rearguard action. They began splitting off into small bands and fleeing into the jungle, where a great many of them were slaughtered as our faster tames caught up to them. We then began sweeping back and forth through the ravine, killing all those that we found. Eventually, we found the rock golem. As the slowest tame in their entire army, they had completely abandoned him. Never mind the fact that had it not been for the rock golem, they would have all been killed. Although he was alone, this was going to be far from easy. Here, we found that the rock golem was ridden by Zavi, a highly experienced PvP YouTuber. Not only that, however, but rock golems are absurdly powerful creatures that have 2 counters. Dinos that inflict bleed, which have all been banned from this event, and rocket launchers, which can't be crafted in this event. So despite being cornered and outnumbered 10 to 1, the rock golem would still put up an insane fight. Even with everybody gathered here and our strongest tames, we still weren't able to kill it. We had literally no choice but to take turns fighting him. Do as much damage as you could, and then back off to heal. But even with this system, we started taking casualties. In fact, I myself was almost killed.
So what? Oh, we lost the dinosaurs.
That was mine, bro. This is so...
My armor had barely saved me. The croc I was on was dead. Luckily, I had someone bring me Burt Cop from base. With Burt Cop being the only tame that had anything approaching full health, when I saw Shmurda on a rhino limping away from the golem, unable to run because of how low HP he was, I knew I had to step in. I couldn't stop the golem, but I had enough HP to body block for a little bit.
Can we get any help on Shmurda, bro? I'm body blocking, I'm just body blocking Shmurda. Shmurda, can you run? Oh, he's dropping in the water. Go the other way, go the other way, go the other way.
Wearing him down with all the tames we had, we were able to finally bring the rock golem low.
On him.
He jumped off.
But the rider had taken this opportunity to hide. We began searching the nearby jungled ravine, struggling to find this guy, until eventually, I stumbled upon him.
Loot. Right here. On ping.
I got him. I got him.
He was killed, and finally this nightmare with the golem was over. And what a fucking event it had been. We had lost multiple high-level tames to this golem, although luckily, by working together, we had no player deaths. You see, the thing about rock golems is, they're tamed with cannons. And do you remember when I mentioned that our rebels had been paying Alucard off with cannonballs? So in reality, this rock golem had been the final and most devastating impact of our rebels yet. In fact, rock golems were deemed so overpowered with this rule set that after this, rock golems were banned from this event. However, our ambush had been a great success. More than half of Alucard's team was dead, and so were their best tames. Unfortunately, however, in this ambush, Alucard and his close retainers managed to survive and escape. The fucking guy who had led everybody into this ambush had been one of the first to flee. We had once again managed to outwit the Reaper. We had had a team that was probably a little bit larger than we were, scheming on our downfall with our greatest enemy, who, by the way, may I remind you, in this roleplay event was manipulating events from the fucking grave. But all the same, we Byzantines, just like our real life counterparts, had survived against impossible odds, all through a clever bit of subterfuge. If only we had had longer to bask in this victory. With the ambush complete, day 5 concluded. On day 6, finally able to exist with no threats on the horizon, our only goal was to spend some time peacefully farming, replenishing the gear and tames we had lost in the ambush. In fact, Palantir was able to craft some med brews and give me a good amount.
Take this and keep yourself safe.
If only he had known how prophetic those words would soon be. However, to the east of us, near Green Obelisk, one of my guys had spotted Alucard and his team traveling in a convoy. We had no idea what he was up to, but we knew it couldn't be good. We had to finish the job. So I hopped on Burt Cop and began making my way over there. Accompanying me was a small selection of our best PvPers, including most of the Goopers. We made our way east, and upon encountering Alucard's team, I closed in on him to kick him around a little bit.
I'll kick his ass.
Kick him, bro. Okay, he's running away,
Yeah.
Hello.
Bro, I can't like...
Yeah.
He's dead? I pushed him for fucking fall damage. He's dead. He's fucking dead, dude. RG, like, let's chase some of these cucks, bro.
After being jumped, they began fleeing east. We pursued them, now accompanied by our allies.
He's hiding in the forest over here. His helmet's not looking so hot. I'm just chopping him. I got good hits, Shmurda.
Yes, I broke his chest.
Nice!
I got him.
Nice, bro.
Snipe him.
We're being attacked.
Are you for real?
I want.
At the worst time possible, while all of our best PvPers were far off to the east, our base came under attack. The southwestern team, known as the Crustacean Crusaders, had arrived on our shores completely undetected. With only the weaker players left at base, this surprise attack quickly overwhelmed the Theodosian walls, which had never really served any actual defensive purpose.
I'm dead.
A great number of our players and tames were killed, and we were instantly pushed back to the more defensive walls. Worst of all, as we'd been coming back, many of my Varangian guard had been jumped and killed. Making it back to the base, there was a very real possibility of me suffering the same fate.
Bro, you gotta be shitting me.
Come on, Albert. Yes, perfect.
Yeah, who's fuck?
Alright, we hold them at this fucking wall. Bring every tame we can down.
Once I was within the citadel of the base, I organized the defenses as well as I could. I sent the few remaining number that we had up to the core of the base to bring down any worthwhile teams we still had left. Most of our best ones had perished. We gathered around the gate, hoping to hold the enemies off long enough for some miracle to come by and save us. And as some of the enemies backed off to heal, I thought I spotted it. We weren't just gonna sit around and wait to be slaughtered. We would push out.
Holes one group, let's fucking go right now!
Go.
Charge out, let's go!
One by one, don't try to get like all together, bro.
One by one. We're jammed.
There's a guy on the ground here,
This offensive took them by surprise. We had some serious success, at least for a little bit. Seeing few of my teammates with me, I turned around. A guy mounted on a Spino had gotten stuck on the gate. The majority of my team wasn't able to join me until it was far too late. By the time they were all out, the enemies had congregated their forces and pushed back.
I'm trying, bro. I'm blocked by the cross.
Rhinos, go crazy! Fuck, I lost my boots.
I'm half.
Whoa, what the fuck? I'm fucking 0 HP.
In this offensive, I had been almost killed. I pulled back to the gate to heal. The Medrus Paladin had given me had saved my life, but this was a small comfort. As I pulled back to the gate, I could see that our attack was failed. I recalled all those in the field, and we fell back to the gate. Our one hope of saving Constantinople had failed. There was nothing left for us to do. A great many of our number were dead, and so were our best tames. We held each gate for as long as we could, falling back only when overwhelmed. But every gate lasted shorter than the one before it. Eventually, we were pushed back to the final gate before the main base, which we couldn't even hold for a minute. Everybody that remained on the team had no choice but to retreat up to the peak above our base. Here, we passed by the cursed banner that had turned blank overnight. We had repainted it, but the curse lingered on all the same. From there, I had no choice but to order all those who were still left to parachute off the top. Our city was lost, and with it, practically every tame and resource we'd ever had. And of my 6 Goopers, only Shmurda remained. This attack had come at the worst time possible, as if fate itself had conspired to ensure that those pesky Byzantines who refused to die would finally be put down. But as long as I was still alive, we would never give up. Even now, as only about 7 of us remained, my men still looked to me and asked me, "What should we do now, Emperor?" My men still had faith in me. Us Byzantines still yet refused to die. In the escape, one of our guys had mounted on a pterodon. He picked me up and began heading east. The enemies pursued, but were unable to catch us. See, apparently, as all this had been going down, one of the guys assigned to our team, named Jon Snow, had been completely off by himself building his own solo castle. Hearing the plight of his fellow teammates, he opened his home to us. Here, those of us that remained were able to regroup, repair our armor, and refit our gear. I literally had no idea about this Jon Snow guy, but here he was to save us. After the sacking of Constantinople in 1204, the Byzantines had been able to retreat to a far-off corner of their empire and eventually retake their city. We had plans to do much the same, although as always, fate had other plans for us. At the start of the final day, we took a moment to reflect over what had happened. Now, as much as it would have been a genius play from Alucard's end, had he intentionally pulled us away from base and then sent in the Crustacean Crusaders, this just isn't what happened. It had truly been blind bad luck that all of our PvPers had been away from base when we came under attack. So it had truly just been a cruel twist of fate. Our allies had been able to track down and kill Alucard, so whatever little of his team had remained was now wiped out. However, they too in turn were destroyed by the Crusaders. The few of them that remained joined us at Jon Snow's castle and got in our tribe, so now we hovered right around 10 strong. The Crustacean Crusaders, having had no civil wars, suffering incredibly minor casualties in the raid against us, was basically at full strength. Surveying the situation before us, there was really only one thing to be done. I went and spoke to the Japanese, and we agreed to merge forces so we could match the Crustacean Crusaders. See, despite that whole fake raid attempt we had on the Japanese, there were no hard feelings between us, and we both despised the Crusaders. Now, in exchange for us joining forces, the Japanese asked that were we to succeed, the only payment they expected is that I should kill myself. Yes, genuinely. Chalk it up to their honor culture. I gladly accepted. I didn't really care whether I lived or died at this point. I needed to avenge those we had lost. So no matter how it turned out, at this point in the event, I was as good as dead. With this agreed upon, we packed up everything in Jon Snow's base, met up with the Japanese, and joined their team. We would be going on the attack. A scout was sent over to reconnoiter the base of the Crusaders, and what we found was a fucking nightmare. Built in some far-off southern island, they had an entire complex on the top of a plateau, meaning there was really only one angle of attack on their base. They had not only an absurd set of walls, but also multiple forts before their main base. But worst of all, the cliffs around their base formed a natural U shape. Since flying tames couldn't be used for PvP, anyone attacking would have to go down this route and get fired on from both sides. There was no strategy or flanking or getting around this base. We would have no choice but to try to beat them at their own game. And do you know what really stuck in our craw? After having raided us, the Crusaders now had those Rex saddles. You know, the reward for the building prize that we lost partially because we had spent so much time making decorative buildings. We weren't exactly looking forward to this, but we steeled our hearts. The men who had destroyed our empire were on that island, so we placed down rafts and set sail for them.
Everyone move!
Along the way, we were intercepted by Moses. With most of us on rafts, all we could do was hope and pray we'd get to land before they killed us.
We've got no chance but to keep driving.
The rafts are too far ahead, bro. The rafts are
my
too far
game
ahead.
froze.
Just keep going, just keep going, just keep going. All rafts keep going. 500 meters, 500 meters still beach.
It's a shore at this point, guys. It's only fucking...
Some of our tames had fallen into the water and were torn apart by the Moses. However, we managed to make landfall on the island. We took some time to regroup, counting up what tames we still had left, and then began marching on the enemy's base. Reaching the outskirts of the enemy base, we came under fire. While the majority of the team focused on destroying the gate, I led my Byzantine contingent in counter-sniping the enemy.
Someone take the Donathium.
Yeah, they're throwing grenades.
Good shots, boys, good shots. I'm seeing lots of tags on enemy snipers.
The sniping was highly effective, but it would do little more than force the enemies to keep their heads down for a while. Since they had defensive advantage, they could easily repair their armor, and so we'd never truly be able to kill them by sniping. So I joined those on the frontal assault on my Carno, where I saw something pretty annoying.
They're breaking the rules.
See, one of the rules of the server was you can't use flying tames for combat. But I guess the enemy had interpreted these rules pretty vaguely, because they had whistled unridden Argentavises to attack us. And after that, I saw them using their RGs to pick one of their buddies that had gotten himself in a shitty position out of there. But despite all this, we were managing to get some kills.
Stuff, boys, stuff, boys.
Killed one.
Nice. Nice.
Spino here,
Yeah, Spino just jumped. Spino just jumped.
Yeah.
Okay, let's fucking gank him, bro.
Pushing the Spino guy back, he retreated into our rear, where he began targeting our supply base. If he killed everything here, we'd be fucked. So I led a small band to the rear to push him back.
Alright, kill this fucking guy right here. Kill this fucking guy right here. Surround him so he can't move anywhere and kill him. He hopped off. Nice!
Huh?
Now it's resupply.
Didn't we kill him already?
Major cheese. We'd already fucking killed this guy. These guys were respawning now too. Despite this, however, our attack continued forward. We had breached the second wall. I showed up on my Carno there to support a sniper we had on the ground. Basically, I was on standby to make sure he didn't get pushed by a dino. When something very bad happened.
Ethereum?
I'm getting out of here, TXE. This is a fucked spot.
I was cornered on the inside of the wall by a croc. In this kind of fight, my Carno was no match. But luckily, thanks to my team pulling up, we were able to rally and continue pushing forward.
I'm okay. I'm free. I'm gonna back out.
Oh, kill him.
He's going up. Watch for the bad
I'm killing this
traps.
guy.
Your left pusher.
Jeff dead.
Go back.
Nice. Good shit.
The croc and its rider were dead, but we had no choice but to pull back. Receiving close-range fire from both sides that you couldn't do anything about was just too much. We had to pull back and reconsider our attack. What else was there to do? Seemingly, the only option was to go right down the middle and get sniped from both sides. When one of our guys had a genius idea. Putting a cart on his Thesi, he managed to make sort of a ramp-type structure that, if positioned perfectly on one of the left cliffs, would allow dinos over. With this new angle of attack, we poured in.
I'm up.
Yes!
This attack, although taking the enemy by complete surprise, netted us no kills. They were able to just retreat back into the nearby forts, mount up on flying tames, and return to safer parts of the base. We pushed the enemy back towards the center of their walls, but this was the farthest that fate would allow us. They once again began sniping down at us. One of our players had been killed by a guy called Apple. Someone we had killed at the very fucking start of this raid. The admins allowed our guy to respawn, but by this point all of our momentum was lost. After constantly taking fire from all sides, our creatures were weak. The enemy saw this, and they rallied out to finish us off.
Someone messed up.
Grenades. Oh, never mind. Oh god.
Who's a good
little spider? Who's a good little
Challenge going down.
With most of us dead, and those few that still survived pushed back to where this very raid had started, the battle was lost. And it was at this point we realized that we mirrored the Byzantines much more so than we had thought. Despite all of our tenacity, fate decreed that we simply shouldn't survive. The coup against us, Alucard's plot, the rock golem, the surprise attack against us. Each of these single events should have claimed our empire, but we had fought on doggedly. However, you can only escape your destiny for so long. It was clear to me now that, in the end, I was slated to die, and so I decided that I would go out on my own terms. I charged the enemy. Just like the Byzantines, although for a short time we'd managed to restore some of our former glory, in the end, it simply wasn't to be. Thank you to Mr. Smart Guy for putting on a pretty cool event. If you guys want to take part in events like this, I'll put his Discord down in the description and pinned comment below. Just hop in the Discord and wait for him to announce an event, and you might be able to play. And of course, thank you for watching. I understand this one was a little more dour than most, but what better way to pay tribute to the Byzantines than a bit of a melancholic tale. Also, go follow me on Twitter. In terms of what I'm going to post on there, I still have no fucking idea, but go shoot your boy a follow. The link for it will be down below.